think about the future and just take as many risks now as you can. It's the best time to make these mistakes, and it's the best time to meet the people who are going to shape you into what your adult life's going to be.
Welcome to another episode of the 20-something Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Roy Clancy. We're here today with Baxon Jurch.
Thanks for
Baxon, where you
having me.
from?
I'm from Nebraska, from Omaha, Nebraska.
So when your parents named you, why'd they name you Baxon?
I don't know.
Where'd they get that from?
I don't know.
It's early in the morning. I got to start off the day with a little Celsius here. This isn't a promotion or a plug, but
no free ads.
It'll give you cancer in 20 years, but you'll have fun while you're doing it. No, so we're here with Jackson Birch. Jackson is, you've been with us now for
about 4 or 5 months now.
4 or 5 months, dude. Flown by. Mm-hmm. I remember when you flew in here, Logan flew you in here, and we took you to Mickey's Tavern.
Yep.
Played some pool, and what else were we doing in there?
Played some foosball.
Hung out with Mickey.
Yep.
Did I take you to Roy's, my tavern?
I've been to Roy's Tavern. I don't know if that was that trip or not.
Roy's is great. They all hate me in there because whatever reason, but
why.
Cool, dude. Yeah, I don't know why. It's like I try to play my own music every time I'm in there, and they hate it. But welcome to the podcast, dude. We've got 2 million listeners. We just broke the barrier. Yeah, we were at 1.9 there for a while, but we made it happen. Yeah, 3rd episode too.
That's amazing.
Can you believe that?
I mean, that growth is unreal.
I know. We need to get a better chair with all this money that we have coming in. But well, cool, Jackson. So you're from Nebraska, and you've been with us for 4 months. So give us the story, dude.
Yeah. So I went to school at Nebraska. That's when I got into sales. They've got a sales school there, actually. So got enrolled in that.
What's the name of the sales school?
Just the Nebraska Center for Sales Excellence. I guess there's only like 15 of them in the country. I have no idea. It was super easy to get into. But that's how I got into sales.
Were you a pretty smart guy in high school?
I mean, I got good grades. I definitely wasn't like the smartest kid out there. I think I got like a 23 on my ACT, you know.
And that's crazy. Out of like 100, right?
No. Yeah, 23 out of 100.
I feel like that's a little bit above average for inner city people.
Yeah, I guess so.
And you grew up on the streets, right? You grew up on the mean streets
of Elkhorn, Nebraska.
Elkhorn just sounds wealthy. Yeah. You don't know where I've been. You haven't been down that way. I'm from the mean streets of Elkhorn, Nebraska. There were some years my dad didn't even make 200 grand. Yeah. Sure, we had a maid. What do you think happened on her days off? Chael Sonnen from the UFC. Yeah. He's like, my neighbors were twins. They had to share their Mercedes they got for Christmas. But so cool. So so you went to school did you always know you wanted to go into sales?
No, actually I started, or I guess when I went to college, I'm
going to pull up Elkhorn because I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I was an accounting major and a finance major. And then when I transferred over to the big school in Nebraska, Lincoln, like none of those credits transferred. So I only had about 10 credits, and it was the easiest way for me to graduate on time was just to switch to business administration. So I ended up doing that. Knew I was, or I guess at the time, I thought I was just going to go into some sort of finance role. That's what my dad does. And then Logan Relfs, who is also on the podcast, he got me to take one of those sales classes with him. And then from there, I just kind of found my way into that. I got my first sales job because I was in that school. They've got a lot of partnerships, so I joined one of them. And then Logan Merritt ended up coming.
Because you guys all went to high school together.
Yeah, I've known Logan Merritt and Logan Relfs. I mean, I've known Logan Merritt since I was probably in like 4th or 5th grade, and we played football together. And then
I'm gonna get a new chair. This is
6th grade. Yeah, that chair is terrible.
We need a new studio. Luke will chop that part out.
We got the nicest equipment, but the worst chairs.
So you guys all knew each other. Were you guys like buddies or? Or enemies?
No, we weren't enemies by any means. We definitely weren't friends growing up. Like me and Logan Merritt, we played football together growing up. And we were like friends on the football team, but like outside of that, we weren't like hanging out or anything like that. And then kind of the same thing with Logan Relfs. We were in the same friend group, but on kind of like the opposite sides of it. So like I was never really like just hanging out with Logan Relfs. I
Yeah.
would kind of just like be around when like the whole group was together.
What do you call those friends? There's a name for those friends. The ones where it's kind of awkward when you two just hang out together.
Yeah, I mean, our friend group was like pretty big. Like everyone in our
Yeah.
grade like kind of got along. Always like, going out doing stuff together. But there
How
would be
many
like
people
20 of
per
us.
class?
I graduated with about like 310 or something like that.
That's a lot. I
Yeah.
graduated with like 30.
Really?
Well, 30. There was a boys' school and a girls' school,
Oh,
so
okay.
60 total.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, bad ratio.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we were friends, but we weren't ever like really hanging out that often. And me and Logan Merritt were pretty much like never really friends until I went
Even
to
though
college.
you guys played football together.
Yeah, I mean, that was like kind of growing up, and then he took like the soccer route, and I took like the baseball route, and then we both weren't playing football. And then in high school, we definitely weren't friends. I like knew of him. I'm sure he knew of me, but our friend groups were not the same.
Weren't the same.
So we weren't really hanging out ever. And then
You thought he was a creepy guy.
he was so creepy. He's probably listening. Like, what the and then me and Logan Merritt started becoming really good friends when I transferred to Lincoln, and we rushed the same fraternity at the same time.
So he didn't. So he waited a year to rush, or he was a year below you in school?
We both waited a semester. We're in the same grade. I was at a different school my first semester, and then he was at Lincoln, but he just didn't rush that first semester. And then we both rushed the same house.
Got it.
Our second semester freshman year, and it's basically how we became friends.
What do you feel like you and Logan had in common? Like what?
At the time,
Because you guys are like really good boys now, but
yeah, now we're super close. I think it was just because at the time we were the only spring pledges. There was only 7 of us in like a house of like 80.
Yeah.
And then, being a pledge, we had to do all the stuff that nobody else wanted to do, like clean the house together, clean the party houses together, stuff like that. So we became super close, just of like we would have to do like all the chores together. We were always hanging out together. And then COVID hit that freshman year, and they kicked us all out. And COVID happened, the whole lockdown happened, and then our sophomore year when we were going back to school, they told everybody that they're redoing how they live in the house. There used to be like 75 people living in the house, and they had to like cut that back to like 2-person a room. I think only like 30 people could be there. Because when I was in my freshman year, I was living in a place called 8 Man, so I had 8
people in here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's terrible.
Yeah, it was like just beds, just lockers, and then they had to like convert that down to like a 2-man, and then everything else was 6-man. So they had to.
Well, that's
bring all those
probably
down
actually
there
a
too.
good thing for you. I mean,
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
living in a room with 7 other dudes.
Dude, it was a nightmare.
That's brutal.
When my parents dropped me off at the house for the first time, we were walking through the house, and it was just like a complete, like a tornado went through it. Like it basically, like they threw a party like right before winter break started, and just left it and left, and just like went back home. And then I came back like at the end of winter break.
There's like dead squirrels in there.
Yeah, it was just like a party that was just laying out for a month. We couldn't even like open the door to like get in my room.
That's
like
crazy.
It was terrible. And Mom was like crying.
Was your fraternity pretty rowdy?
Yeah, it was kind of like if you're living in the house, it was just always rowdy. I mean, 70 dudes living on top of each other. That's just what's gonna happen.
Is that a figure of speech, or they were physically living on top of each other?
Probably a little bit of both, honestly. Like the living situation was not great at all by any means, but I guess that's how you build a brotherhood or whatever. But
dude, that's one thing that I wish I would have experienced if I had actually gone to a university, would be fraternity life. I don't think the pledging and all that stuff, just because most people think I'm I don't know, a D-bag anyway. So, I think if I had said, I'm in Phi Sigma, whatever. Also, dude, who would ever join a fraternity called Beta?
Oh, dude.
The Beta House?
I've never figured that out, bro.
What goes on in the Beta House? They eat cornflakes and soybeans? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's an insane fraternity to join. But hey, everybody has their own choice,
Yeah.
So you became really good friends with Logan. I'm just trying to get a timeline here. So, and then Logan went out and sold books. I remember when you were visiting, when we went to Mickey's, I was like, so did you think that he was like a nut job for going out over the summer selling books door to door?
Dude, yeah. Like, so when we were living together in sophomore year, it was me, Logan, and another kid. And none of us were really working. It was pretty obvious that we like all needed to get jobs at some point.
Yeah. But just nobody's doing it.
Yeah, just nobody's doing it. I mean, like we were in the middle of COVID, like we weren't going to classes. Like it just seemed like we were just staying inside the entire
It's
day.
like you're paying how much a year to just hang out inside and use ChatGPT for your
literally
classes,
it's like people in my grade, like we probably didn't learn anything in college just with the way that like COVID kind of happened, the way online classes were going, but that's a different story. But
Logan made the joke one time that like some of his buddies are engineers like building bridges right now.
Oh yeah.
And just use ChatGPT their entire
like
life. And those are the guys that are building building your bridges and operating on your uncle.
Yeah, those are our future doctors.
Wait a minute, I went to class with that kid, was never in class. But anyway.
Yeah, and Logan got hooked up with Logan Relfs, heard about what he did, and I think it was just kind of like, I don't really care what the work is. You made that much money, like I need to make that much money. So then he went out and did that, and my first thought was, like, you're knocking on doors selling books, like
you're wild.
Good luck, bro. Like, let me know how it goes. And he was like, oh, I'm also like deleting all my social media, like I'm not bringing like my PS5 with me, like I like won't be able to like talk to really anyone except for like maybe an hour or two on Sundays. And I was just like, dude, like that sounds crazy, like, but go do it. I hope you make a ton of money. I hope you come back and it's great. And then you'd kind of check in with me like through the summer, and it sounded like it was like going really good, but we couldn't really have like that long of conversations. I remember him telling me, he's like, I can only really talk to friends for a certain amount of time. I have to like protect my mental. I don't want to like talk about anything negative.
Yeah, it's like boot camp.
Yeah, exactly. So didn't talk to him a whole lot that summer. And then when I came back my junior year, Logan was like a completely different person from like the sophomore year to his junior year. I mean, like had his head on his shoulders, clearly had a good summer, like financially. And like his like confidence, his social confidence was like 20x everyone else, and he was way more mature than everybody else. You could just tell that he probably grew like 5 or 10 years in that one summer. And I think that's kind of like where our friendship like really like took off, was when we weren't like butting heads just over about like the dumbest things, about like how many bags of like tortillas were we buying for the house or something like something stupid like that.
Because you realize like it just doesn't really matter. Like there's so many things that you come back from the summer and you got to be careful. Like whenever you do something difficult, and then you like after my first summer, this guy that this book dude that I live with, Wiley Stewart, he was talking about, he went to CU Boulder and he went back to he wasn't in a fraternity, but like the dorms or something. Or it was at school, and a kid was complaining about like, oh man, I got the worst parking. I had to walk like 600 yards to blah, blah, blah. And Wiley's like, dude, I lived in a freaking cardboard box all summer. Like, it just changes your perspective, but you got to be careful too, that you don't start judging people based on their difficult experiences.
Yeah.
Cause it's like the hardest thing somebody's done is the hardest thing that they've done.
Yeah.
For some people that's combat.
Yeah.
For other people it's selling door to door.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And then, not really, but, and for some people, it's not. It's like moving out of their parents' house and going to college is like the toughest thing they've ever done.
Yeah,
up
exactly.
to that point, So that's interesting. So, but that didn't really like spur you to be like, man, I want to do that. Or did he like approach you to be like, dude, come do this with me next summer? Or was he more just like, this is kind of my deal,
Yeah, that's kind of funny. like
Because
I was never
yeah.
like floated, you
Yeah.
know, like I never really like I living with Logan Merritt, living with Logan Rolls, I obviously knew what selling books was. I don't think I ever was like approached seriously about it. Like I knew what it was, knew that it like could be a possibility if I really wanted it to. I think just at the time I was like, there's no way I'm doing that.
Mhm.
Like I don't like you guys can try to sell me on it, but like I don't think I'll
Dude,
do
I've
that
got plenty
ever.
of friends that are in the same boat.
Yeah. And I liked what I was doing over the summer. Like I had like a pretty like fun summer job that I liked doing.
What did you do with your summers?
Yeah, I was actually a baseball coach for the freshman high school team at the time,
That's
and
fun.
it was so much fun. Like
Yeah.
I wish I could like do it now. Like did it for 3 years, had a blast all 3 years. Definitely like wouldn't change anything like looking
Yeah.
back on it.
I'm sure you probably want to do some type of baseball coaching in the future.
Oh yeah.
And we're joining a major league, or not major league. It's pro-am, right? This league around Nashville. We actually Jackson was tossing me balls for in the cages, and these two scouts walked by. When was this? This was
Probably almost a month ago at this point.
about a month ago, yeah. And I saw a guy. I just heard a guy go, "Stop!" And I thought he was gonna throw us out of the cages.
Yeah.
Because we had snuck in.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out this is Hall of Famer. What was that guy's name?
I think it was like
He's from back
Bo
in the
Jackson or
70s.
something like
Like
that.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know. He goes, "That is the greatest swing I've ever seen in my entire life."
Yeah.
And he said,
did say
"That's the
that.
greatest throwing form I've ever seen in my entire life from you."
Yeah.
And I go, "Yeah." And you had Tommy John surgery too,
I did, yeah.
you know? So anyway, enough about us.
Enough about us.
Anyway, enough about Jackson. Let's get to the real heart of the issue here. Now, interesting. So then you ended up selling door to door anyway.
Yeah,
With
I did.
solar, right? So what's up with that?
Yeah, like it's kind of my senior year. Like I always
You were like, I'm not going to sell these lowly educational books. I'm going to save the planet.
It wasn't that. Looking back, we probably should have sold books. But it wasn't
You
that.
still can. The summer's right around the corner.
True, yeah. Yeah. I do need I'm the only non-book kid really, so maybe I should go do that.
We'll go down in Franklin
Oh, perfect.
for a couple hours one of these days.
I love it.
And give you a book bag and just see what happens. Actually, you know what? That would be pretty fun.
Yeah. I'll memorize the pitch or something. We can do
That would be actually really fun. Logan Austin and I have talked about like just doing 1 week a year just for fun, you know?
One week
just-
a year could be cool. I don't really know how that would work, but
Yeah. Anyway. But yes, but then you did solar.
yeah, I was like I wasn't super against the door to door. I just was like, there's got to be like better ways to do sales than door to door. It just
No, there's no better way to
there
do
is
sales than
looking
door
back,
to
there
door.
is no better way.
No.
Who
Who needs a business plan when you got knuckles and a mouth?
exactly.
You know? Oh fuck this.
I don't really know. Like, I just went to one recruiting dinner, and the people who brought me in were like my 3 best friends. So like I, trusted them a lot more than I would have anybody else.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them, including Logan Merritt too, was like, this is like gonna be great. I think that you would be good at it. Ended up talking with like our 2 managers at the time, liked them enough, and I guess I just did a good job of like selling what it could look like in the future, how it's not always going to be on the doors. So I think that's what kind of got me into it was
Mhm.
I didn't go into it thinking I was going to be knocking doors that was going to be my career. I didn't think I was going to be a career door-to-door solar salesman. I just saw the potential of what it could like in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's what got me into it. And then
So you were actually thinking long term. You weren't just thinking like just for a summer and make some money and go back and blow it all in Elkhorn.
Yeah, because
at the Elkhorn Casino.
Yeah. I guess before I was doing solar, I always said that I was gonna like go work for my dad in like the finance industry. And then after like talking with my dad, going into my senior year, realized that that probably wasn't going to happen for a few years after college. So in my head, I was like, okay, I have probably like 5 to 7 years before I'll be able to go in that direction.
Hmm.
So I need to do something in those 5 to 7 years. And that was also the only time where I was like, okay, I've got 5 to 7 years to like work for myself, figure this out for myself
Mhm.
before like I need to like nudge on dad for like a little bit of help.
Mhm.
So I was like, this is for, I guess what it was sold me is like, this is the fastest way to build your sales experience, build your skills, and then to also build your finances up too. That was, what
Which
they got me.
in a in a good company, I mean, that could definitely happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think if we had, the right leadership and whatnot, a little bit more help, above our current or the managers at the time, it would have worked out well. But we kind of just got thrown out there just to the wolves and was like, go
Did you guys
sell.
just have like a bus that would park or like a big van that would park and then you guys would just scurry out
That's kind of how it
and then
felt.
it would come back and then you guys would run back in
Yeah, I mean,
with
it
like
was
blood and sweat and everything's like
literally.
torn up?
Yeah, I mean, we would like carpool out together and like take our like breaks together at like a gas station and whatnot. I mean, all this stuff that like normal door to door sales guys do. We just didn't have like any sort of like upper management help. We basically had like no training from people who have been in the industry for like a really, really long time. So like, and it was like 25 college kids who were like all in the same like fraternity or friend group. Like it was
Yeah.
just like not like the greatest environment,
Yeah, it's like a
especially like,
recipe for either
yeah,
doing super well if everybody buys in and locks in or it being just a train wreck,
yeah,
you
and
know?
yeah. I mean, it wasn't like a total train wreck. I could definitely, I would probably recommend it if you're like in college and you like need a summer job, but maybe like out like just graduating college. I wouldn't think like a door to door like setter solar salesman is probably not the best gig out there.
Mhm. Yeah. Definitely, because most of the time door to door is, sold and is like skill building,
Yeah,
learning how to talk to people, how to initiate conversations, how to find things in common
yeah,
with you and other people, connecting with other people. And I think nowadays more than, well, obviously nowadays more than any other period in history, I think that is, if you're just decent at talking to somebody,
hmm,
like not even phenomenal, you're seen as phenomenal just because you know how to talk to somebody
yeah,
or approach somebody or like, I don't know, ask for a discount on something
yeah,
or just asking for stuff. People will give it to you if you just ask for it because like nobody asks for anything,
yeah. I
So
mean,
then you did that and that was 3 months?
I did that for 3 months in Oklahoma, and then
Right.
all the college kids went back, and we like briefly took a couple blitzes and then to Texas.
And this is when you had already graduated at
Yeah, I
this
was
point?
graduated, had my degree, the whole thing. Um, and there was really only like 4 or 5 of us who wanted to like keep doing solar, didn't want to move home basically. And got in touch with one of the top producing agencies or groups within our company. And they were based out of Florida. And by the miracle of God, it was right next to where my family is in Florida. So I was like,
Hmm.
this just seems to make the most sense to move down there. So packed our bags and like as soon as we figured out we could go there, I mean, we just left Oklahoma. Just ended up living with some family for a few months. Still was selling solar in Florida. But
Do you
by
feel
that
like you had
time,
picked it up at that point? Like it was pretty much like,
yeah, right when I got to Florida, like I made a sale like the very first day I was knocking in Florida and was like,
this is
this
gonna
like
be so easy.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is like what I was supposed to do. Like I found a market where this makes sense. We actually have like leaders and stuff like that. And then like I don't even think I made a sale for the next like 6 weeks after that. And
Youch.
just like every single week after that, I was just like, okay, like this is maybe not what I thought. And then after like a couple weeks of just not selling anything, um, I was like I was so mentally checked out, but I was still on the doors, like knocking, like
Yeah.
probably just had like a super unproductive month, like was basically just the thinking on the doors, like
What am I gonna do next?
what am I gonna
Yeah.
do next? And obviously you're not gonna sell anything like that. I mean, everybody on the doors is like, this kid hates his job. Like,
Yeah.
why would I buy anything from him?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And funny enough, I was like pretty much at like the rock bottom of like my financial like career. Had like no money, was making no money. I was like,
Which is an experience in itself.
yeah, it was. And I was like living in Florida. Like my parents were like, what are you doing? Like it was definitely a lot of like pressure from just like get a job, man, you
Mhm.
know? And was like, dude, I'm already like knocking these doors. Like I hate when I'm selling. Like I just like need some money like today. I I don't know if you've seen like window washing
Oh,
people
yeah.
on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, like these solar systems are like so hard to sell. Like I can sell a
Windows.
window washing.
Yeah.
So I like ended up like knocking a bunch of doors for window washing, sold like a few houses that day, like made more money like that day than I did like the past like month selling solar just of like
Wow.
wash people's windows. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can do this.
What
And
was it,
I
like a couple $100 a gig or?
yeah, it was like $150 for my first house and maybe like $100 at like the next house. Probably like only probably made like $200 like after I like bought some equipment for it.
Still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like, screw this is what
I've
I'm
got a couple
doing.
buddies that are down in Arizona doing that right now.
Yeah, dude.
They're knocking doors and doing the window washing because that guy Oliver
That's who it
on
was.
YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I saw on
Yeah.
YouTube. I DM'd me, never answered me. So if
What
you
a
see this,
scumbag.
Oliver, answer my DM.
I like that guy because the way he talks. Yeah, we're just going around the neighborhood. You probably noticed us, the boys in blue.
Yeah.
He's got that Canuck
Yeah.
accent, and he's like, so we were doing it for $550, bringing it right down, taking out transportation fees for $375. And then
That's
he's like,
literally what I was doing.
he's
like
like,
the same pitch,
yeah.
everything.
And then he like brings you over to the window and
Yeah.
like changes, and then he'll be like, well, we'll just do a quick free
I'll just count up
investigation,
all the
count them all up, and I'll let you know, blah, blah, blah. I like the ones where literally the dude's like closing the door and he's
Yeah.
like he's like, oh, okay. And then next one,
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you could be successful at anything if you can just, I don't know, knock on a door, ask
Yeah.
somebody for a sale.
I feel like it was just, like literally just having the slightest bit of conviction in what I was selling just made like the world of a difference.
So you weren't convicted in solar?
No, not at all. After
Okay.
the first
Well-
like couple months, like I was just like,
Well, that's a recipe for disaster.
yeah, when you're not convicted with what you're selling and with what you think is selling, like maybe is not a good product at the end for your customer, you're just like, you start just like, am I doing like a good thing right now? Like everybody.
And that's a
seems to-
great way to increase sales is by asking yourself that question at every way.
Yeah.
Am I doing a good thing?
Yeah. It's just like, if that's your mentality going out the day, like you are so
screwed. Yeah. Conviction is like, I think, it's one of those things that when you're on Instagram, at least my experience is there's not a ton of emphasis on it.
Yeah.
Not as much as like sales tactics and techniques and what you got to say here and there and whatever. But it's like whoever is the most convicted wins.
Oh, absolutely. Like if you're not just convicted with what you're doing, like you're just not going to have any success at all. You can pick that up right away. If you just in somebody's voice
You
and
can
their tonality,
sniff it off them.
you're just like, you don't believe with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. So you sold solar and then you got a job doing AI thing?
Yeah, it was just like a tech sales job. We sold like AI lead generation is like what the company says.
Like AI bots or what?
Basically what we were selling, if a company out there is searching for what your company sells, their program would be able to tell you that.
Did it work?
Thought it worked for
all right. I've got a new business idea. Screw life insurance. We're done with life insurance. We're fully transitioning to, and it's a prototype right now. Okay. We're fully going to transition. It's more of an idea. Sales is selling ideas.
Oh yeah.
Write that down. But we're fully going to transition to selling. If someone thinks about your product, we can target them.
That is a genius idea.
Yep. And we're going to sell it full price, rev share on the next 8 months of the business. And then we'll work it out on the back end.
Do you think that's the reason Elon's putting Neuralink in people's brains so we can tell what they're trying to buy or sell?
No, it's deeper than that.
probably right.
Is he putting it in people's brains?
I think it's in a couple people now.
Really?
Actually, I know
went
it's
like
in
the
one
it went
person.
like your arm, right? It goes in the
I
brain.
think it's in the back of your
Some
head.
dude was playing video games, and you could like he could snipe people out
Yeah, I was watching
with
somebody play
Neuralink.
chess
Really?
with Neuralink. Yeah.
See, that doesn't make any sense at all to me. Because the brain, I feel like the thoughts just go. Like, how do they know where the thoughts
That's
coming
what
from? And like, how does that make any sense?
because I know you can like have like different
Doesn't make any
programs where
sense.
your eyes, like the cursor will follow your eyes, and
But
that's not what it
thoughts
is. It's
don't make-
thought. Yeah. Because they're asking guys like, "Are you controlling this with your eyes?" He's like, "No, thinking about where I want it to go."
Yeah. So, I mean, if you took that and you took it like 100 years ago, or maybe not 100 years ago, when did they used to tar and feather people? How long ago was that?
That had to be like, I don't know, like whenever like the Constitution
20 years
was
ago,
written.
30 years ago?
Yeah.
Dude, if you went back during the Constitution and you brought, who was there during if you brought Barack Obama when they were signing the Federation of Independence. I went to community college. But anyway, if you went back in time and you brought Neuralink or even just a laptop, they would attach 8 stones to your
Oh,
legs,
yeah.
blindfold you, put your hands behind your back, throw you in the river, and if you float, you're a witch.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'd start the Salem witch trials.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy they used to do that?
Yeah, it is.
They would bind you, put weights on your feet, and if you floated, you were a witch. But nobody floated,
How
right?
did nobody in the village like? All right, there's got.
It's like, well, Bill, we've been doing this now for 20 years and no one's floated. I know.
I know there are a bunch of witches.
A bunch of witches down there. Well, if you floated, you weren't a witch.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Something stupid.
I think if you floated, you were a witch. So like,
So
you were
everybody
supposed to drown.
Or they would just burn you alive.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so crazy. Wow. I wonder how accurate all that stuff is, though, you know? Because we hear it about in the history books and all that stuff, but I wonder if there's some, you know, somebody's doing some creepy stuff with that.
Somebody was definitely doing some creepy
Yeah,
stuff.
somebody's like, who's writing all this stuff down?
Yeah, what
you
kind
know?
of creeper was that? That dude was
So-
probably a witch.
He was probably, yeah, he probably floated down the river. But what were we talking about? Neuralink.
Something about Neuralink and
No, so then you were doing that for a while, and then did Logan reach out to you and was like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?"
yeah, I mean, like me and Logan were roommates for 3 years. Was like still my best friend, so I would talk to him like pretty much like every single night, whether it was like a FaceTime or pop on PlayStation and whatnot. And he like kind of
You guys
planted the
love
seed.
playing Call of Duty.
Oh yeah, we run Warzone for sure.
You guys love Warzone.
Yeah, it's fun.
But anyway,
Yeah. He
you
kinda
love
planted-
Warzone.
I love it. It's my thing.
I love pointing at people when I say
Yeah.
things.
I guess he like just kind of planted the seed early when he was like a month in.
Mm-hmm.
Heard he was doing good. Kind of heard what he was doing. Just like, oh, he's selling life insurance, cool. And then maybe like a month or two of him doing it, he like kind of like brought it up again, being like, oh, like, would you think about moving to Nashville? Like, could you do it? And I was just like, dude, I like just got a job. Like I'm like doing this like window washing thing on the side. Like I've got like a decent thing going here. Like still living with family, had like a sweet living situation in Florida. So like I don't really know, man. And then he like actually got me on the phone for like a serious talk about it. And he was telling me about what his day looks like his finance goals that he was going to reach this year. And I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to trust anyone's opinion, it's going to be yours. Definitely went into it with kind of the mentality is like, I'll check it out, but there's no way I'm going to do this. Had just like a bad taste in my mouth from just like a 1099 job, like nothing was
Yeah.
guaranteed, was like in this like corporate role. I was like, oh, I've got all these like benefits. I get like a month of PTO. Like I've got like a good setup here. Came down, and as soon as I came down, I think I saw him make a sale like right on his like 9 a.m. meeting. And I was like, okay, like I can do this. This is sweet. The product is actually something people want, which I've
Mhm.
never had. It's not even something they want, something they need. And I've never have had that. So I was like, I
Hmm.
can definitely see being super convicted with what I'm selling here,
Yeah.
and it's never going to go away. Like the product that I was selling at the time, like there were competitors, the competitors were probably better. was like, there's no competition here. And then I like, kind of got resold back on the ideas of like what being a 1099 employee looks like uncapped commissions and not having a boss breathe down your neck. And then
Figuratively or physically breathing down your neck?
my job was fully remote, so figuratively.
Anyway, back to it.
Yeah. Um, and it just made sense where I was supposed to be. Like at the time, I was living in Florida. Like had the great setup, had a great living situation, but I didn't really have like any sort of social life.
Uber
So
Eats.
yeah. Did you say who reads?
Uber Eats.
Oh, Uber Eats.
Uber Eats and DoorDash running up the scoreboard.
Yeah, basically. And I was like, this is definitely gonna give me a chance to like
You probably
restart, reset, and yeah, it just made so much sense. And then like basically seemed like a week after I decided to do that, that's when Logan Relfs like called me up out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I'm checking this out, and I'm probably gonna do it." And at that point, it just made too much sense to not do it.
and Ralph's is so passionate
Yeah,
about everything.
his passion really got me into it.
I was thinking you probably caught yourself one morning talking to the mailman for like an hour, and you're like, "Man, I gotta get a social life going on down here."
Literally, I was like, God, my like best friends are like
Work at the DMV.
they're like the neighbors who are like 65.
Yeah.
I was like, God, this sucks.
Hey, Jax, you want to come over for a nice home cooked meal?
Yeah,
Sure.
sure, absolutely.
15 minutes early. you know?
Yeah. I remember like it was kind of funny. It was like I worked in Florida, so we were on the Eastern time zone. So my work day got over at 5 p.m. in Eastern time, but it was 4 p.m. for Central.
Mhm.
So everybody had like another hour of work to do. And I remember just being like sitting there like looking at my phone being like, when are people gonna be off work? So that's when I can like start like calling my friends to see
Yeah.
like what's going on. 'Cause
Yeah.
most of my day was like I'd wake up,
Dude, it's
I'd
lonely,
shower,
man.
and I'd walk 10 feet to my office where I'd sit in a Zoom meeting all day long. And I was taking like 600 calls like at that other job. So I was like, I don't know, like just my human interactions for the day to day was super weird because it was just
Mhm.
very quick conversations all day long and then
Yeah.
nothing after that.
Mhm. One thing I was thinking about is like that, like corporate 9 to 5, like tech sales jobs sounds so sexy.
It does.
But
Like
when you break it down, with most things, when you break anything down, everything is mundane after a certain period of time.
yeah, like it.
It's usually, it's like you get like the cool thing is like you get the benefits and you have certainty of income.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Having benefits and certainty of income, but you sacrifice the other things for
Yeah.
those two things. If you ever want, well, benefits, I mean, eventually down the line, like we want to provide more stuff
Mhm.
like that, but certainty of income in sales, it's like if you have a certainty of income and you're in sales, you're probably not in like you probably have capped commissions or low commissions.
Yeah.
you
and
know,
That's exactly what it was. I mean, the product
which
we were
makes
selling
sense. It's
was
like if you're already going to get paid out, I
yeah.
don't know what your salary was there or what the bonus structure or
Mhm.
the comp plan was or how much you were making or anything, but
When you're working for like corporate and like I had two different quotas, a revenue quota and
and a
like
dials quota.
not even a Dallas quota. It was we had like daily quotas we had to meet. And if we weren't hitting that, like it was like a more like a separate conversation of like you're not working. But after every month, it was like if you don't hit these numbers, we're gonna fire you or we're gonna put you on like a performance improvement plan. And I had two quotas. It was revenue attained, which I wasn't even the one closing the deals. So that was like a weird thing. It's like I'm just setting the meetings up. I was an SDR if anybody was
Yeah.
listening and knows what that is.
What's it stand for?
Sales development representative.
Lots of emails.
For
phone
me,
calls.
I was on a dialer, so I would basically jump into a room of contacts of like 20,000 numbers.
And it would just call them all three
and
at a
it would
time.
just
Bang,
rip
bang,
through,
bang,
yeah,
bang.
3 at a time, 2 at a time, and then I'd make like 500 to 600 dials a day.
Were you selling direct to consumer or to businesses?
B2B. It only targeted B2B.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
That's a shit ton
yeah,
of
CEOs, CFOs, like that's all we were talking to. And it was completely cold outreach. So nobody knew the call was coming or not. And you're making like 600 dials a day and you're only talking to like 30 people. So you just be like sitting back in your chair just like listening to like voicemails just over and over
And
and over
somebody
again.
calling, "Oh,
And then
Bill!"
all of a sudden, like a CEO of a company would answer, and they're like,
You're like this. You're like, he's like, "Hello,
yeah, like
Bill. Hey, Bax and Church here."
yeah, that's like literally like how it felt like.
Yeah.
It was just like so soul sucking. And I remember the month before I quit, I was still going to work while I was like getting contracted and licensed and the whole nine. And it was over Father's Day. I made it like very, very clear to my manager and my manager's manager that I was going to head back home for Father's Day and I was going to miss a Thursday and Friday. I was going to take my PTO that I could take whenever I wanted to. There was no rules about that when I got hired. Apparently, no rules.
Watch out for that 1 month PTO, because if you take all of it, you'll get replaced.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
dude.
no, but really,
yeah,
they're like, I've got a million of you that want this job.
Literally, that's literally
Yeah.
how it felt like. I mean,
Yeah.
we were hiring.
I never buy any of that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got 4 weeks PTO. It's like, how often does somebody actually take 4 weeks PTO and not get flack for it, or not be able to hit that next level?
Oh yeah.
of
I mean,
what they want to, you know.
and the amount of people in
Scam.
that job at that company who stayed there for over a year was like, it was like nothing. We were hiring 4 to 5 people every single week. 4 to 5 people would quit every week, or at the end of the month, you'd see a mass exodus of like
Major
10 to 15
churn.
people. Yeah, major churn.
Because the vision for an SDR to grow into like an account manager at executive was probably pretty difficult.
Yeah, it was just like you had to hit your quota 6 months straight, and you had not only hit it, but you had to like show you're a leader, and there's very little like opportunities to show you're a leader. I mean, you have like a 10-minute sales meeting in the morning, maybe another 10-minute like rest break later, and there's just not really a whole lot of time to like stand out. So a lot of times people who get promoted, they've been SDRs for 8, 9 months to a year, and they're just every month they're just waiting for it, and they just get sick and tired of it at a certain point, and they just leaves to go to somewhere else. But like I was saying with the quotas,
so that Thursday, Friday,
so I hit my revenue quota. So I brought in, like the quota was like 10 grand, brought in like 13,000, like made the company more money than they told me to, but I didn't hit the quota for meetings attended.
like Zoom meetings.
Yeah. So like what I was doing was I was setting up meetings for the account exec, and I had to hit like 30 to 31 a month, depending how many days were in a month. And
how big is this company?
They're decently sized. I don't know. They probably have like 250 employees.
So pretty big.
Yeah, decent size.
Mid-size.
Everyone's remote.
Yeah. So anyway,
and I maybe hit like 27 or something. Like I was a few off, and I like got pulled into like a meeting with like my manager, who I like made it very, very clear. Who my manager was great to me at the time too. Like I didn't have any problems with her. I just thought the way that she handled it maybe could have been better, especially when I made it very known that I was leaving to like take this trip. And the HR manager was just like, if you take that trip, like we're gonna fire you. Like we need like all hands on deck this like next coming month or something. I was just like, all right, well, my next day or my last day is tomorrow. So like
really
deuces.
So that's how it went down, huh?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Was that before you showed up here or after?
That was after. That was probably like a week or two after. Like I was gonna
Were you still mulling stuff over? Or?
Yeah, like I was still trying to like sell my parents on the idea of like moving down to Nashville. Was like figuring out like where I'm gonna live, because at the time I was only gonna live with Logan for like a month, and I was gonna have to get my own place. So I was trying to figure just like all of that stuff out, and then they like dropped that on me, and I was just like, okay, like I just want to get to Nashville down sooner. Like I don't want to like spend the last month of this job and I know I'm gonna leave just like hating my life. So I just like quit literally the next day, like just called my manager in a meeting like right before the day started, made it like super quick, had like a 2-minute exit meeting with like the HR, just like what could we do better. I'm just like nothing like,
and we'll be seeing you.
Yeah, just like give me my last paycheck, I'm out of here. Like that's pretty much
dude, if you've got a 2-minute exit meeting, that company didn't give 2 shits about you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like if you
I was like hitting
like you worked there for 6 years and they're like, okay, see ya. You know,
Like that's literally like how it felt.
they've got 1,000 people that are willing to dial. You know,
Yeah, literally.
man, that sounds so familiar to another job I've heard about through one of my friends for like mortgages, but maybe a little bit different, but just hammering the phones. And basically, in that job, to become an account executive, you basically just have to outlast everybody.
Yeah.
And it takes like 3 to 5 years. And then
Yeah.
you get some accounts, then you just kind of sit on them and scratch their back and whatever. And like, that's kind of it, you know?
Yeah.
So people can make anything sound amazing.
Oh yeah.
You know, so that's why you do have to be careful and know who to trust. Well, how's the insurance game been? You've been in it
Dude.
4 or 5 months. What's it been like?
I mean, I've definitely have had my ups and downs. Like started off slow, but this over the past maybe 6 to 8 weeks, definitely feel like I've been hitting my stride, and now it's just fun. Like I just come into work, like I genuinely enjoy what I do. All the people I talk to are like, for the most part, super, super cool. I love when end of sales conversation and I can ask like, how did we do today? Like they're like,
Mhm.
you did great. Like this is what I've been wanting to figure out. Like thank God I figured it out. Like I finally feel like secure, and it just makes you feel so good about what you're doing.
Mhm.
I just have never felt that before in a job. So it's just so fulfilling when you're actually doing a good thing for your client and they
Mhm.
like to have you. It's like I used to joke around like if any one of my clients was calling me in my last job, it was like 100% of the time a bad phone call. Like something
Mhm.
went wrong, something down the line. Now people just call me to say thank you or to just ask like a minor question and they thank you again, or they just want to like ask how you're doing or just talk
Mhm.
football with what we talked about like on their last phone call. Like it's
Yeah.
just everything is just super positive at this job, and it's
You're in a fantasy league with one of your
I am in a
customers.
fantasy league with one of my first clients that I sold. The first client who I sold, he was from Nebraska.
That was your first one?
My first Nebraska client, yeah, just
Wow.
broed out about
Huh.
Nebraska for like an hour, like still has the policy. He actually called me like a couple weeks ago just to like talk about Nebraska football, like nothing to do with life insurance.
Mhm.
If I'm in Lincoln again, I'm definitely gonna like
Go
call
say
him
hi
and
to
see
him.
if he wants to like like grab a
Grab a
drink or
beer. Yeah.
something. Like just a super cool guy, and that's
Hmm.
honestly how like most of my clients are. I
Mhm.
feel like most of them I end the conversation like being somewhat friends with these people, and it's crazy because you talk to them for 30 minutes to an hour and you can build that connection while also working and getting something done. It's super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Something special about veterans, you know?
Oh yeah, I
There's a
mean
lot
they're
of
the
cool there's
best.
a lot of cool veterans out there,
They're the best.
you know? That's awesome. Sweet, dude. What has been the highest high and the lowest low so far?
um I'll go the lowest low first. It was definitely a few weeks ago, or not a few weeks ago, probably about a month and a half ago. Was like in a bad place, just mentally with this job. Was just not seeing a lot of success. Was probably just thinking about myself a little too much when it comes to like the sales sides, and I think that definitely you could hear that during my
Mhm.
sales pitch, and that's turned a lot of people away. Had just like a long conversation with Logan Merritt being like, is this something that you like doing? Why do you think that things have gone this way? And kind of just had like a heart to heart, just being like, all right, like things are bad now, but it's because of something. It's not because what we're doing, like, it's not because the leads are bad. It's not because I'm not putting in effort. There's just like a mentality change and just a few things that need to be tweaked. And I think once I sat down and like talked that over with him, things have just gotten so much better. But that was definitely in my lull. I was probably 2 minutes away, or just maybe one like one comment of like, hey, maybe you should try something else from doing something else.
Mm.
And that was definitely would be my low. And then I would say,
Well, how'd you get yourself out of that? What happened?
yeah,
So you made a tweak and then what happened?
I had Logan Merritt follow me for a few days. Super generous of him to just basically devote 3 days to just figuring out me. Just tweaked a lot of different things, and it was nothing big. It was just like tonality in certain places, rephrasing certain parts of the pitch. Like I was saying the same words, but I was saying them differently, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So just figuring out like why we say things and just saying them differently with a more relaxed tonality, taking myself out of the sale, that really helped me the most. Just trying to not be selfish, just think about the client and you'll get a lot further. And that's definitely been the case. I mean, now I just try to take all my emotions out of it. The client tells me they can spend this much money and they need this. So we need to figure out somewhere in the middle of that to make that happen. And before I was like, oh, maybe like they need like another like 5,000 more because that's, they only need, I don't know, maybe I was like making my packages like too big when I was dropping them, just maybe being too desperate where things weren't going my way. And as soon as I made those small tweaks, like I definitely saw like a huge spike in my numbers.
Yeah, I mean, even this first week of December was pretty great.
Yeah, it was great first week of December.
So was it the best week in the office for issue paid for the first week?
It was the top in the office that week, so super excited about that.
Nice, dude. You're gonna be on that. Do we still do the weekly? Or we're doing the weekly thing.
Yeah, right? they actually posted it today.
Truffle Hog of the Week.
Yeah, they
Jackson Birch today. Dude, that's badass. That's a great story and testimony. I think everybody goes through that moment at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
In every job.
Yeah,
and Alex Hormozy, or in every job, and especially in a straight commish sales job.
Oh yeah,
where you're paying for leads.
Yeah.
And there is money on the table. It's not like, well, if I don't sell anything today, I guess I'm just at zero.
Exactly.
It's like, no, if I don't sell anything today, I'm
in the hole.
I'm in the hole, you know? Which gives them some skin in the game, makes you like wake up with an extra little fervor to get the job done. But you gotta, the pressure game is the tough part. But once you get it down and you come into every day and you're like, I know I'm gonna get a policy or two today.
Exactly.
Maybe 3. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's so different. Yeah, but that's hard to do when you're in the middle of it. When you're in the middle of that mindset, it's really hard to break free. But Alex Hormozy has an interesting story about when he was president of his fraternity or something. When the kids were pledges and they were going through all the BS.
Yeah.
And like they'd like want to quit. He started to have conversations with them while they were going through it, and he'd say, when you guys first started and you guys were, rushing, we asked you, do you like doing hard things? And you were like, yeah, I like doing hard things, Everybody's all fired up about doing hard things.
Yeah.
He's like, well, that's what this is. That's what you're in right now is the hard part, where most people are like, this is too hard, But once you get past it, I mean, then you're like, well, I hit that level, and then now that's your new normal.
Yeah.
And you know what you can go through again, That's why it's like if somebody's like a self-made millionaire, the odds of them losing, a lot of their business or going bankrupt or something and just staying bankrupt is way lower than somebody that's just handed everything or never been actually through those lows.
Yeah.
And that gives you a new level of confidence because now you've gone through it and you realize it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It reminds me when I was selling books, my first week, I think, I put my debit card in the pump for my gas. It was a Saturday night. And it clicked at like $6 and some change.
Yeah.
I remember calling my manager and being, I lived with him. So I remember sitting down with him and being like, dude, I got to talk to you about some stuff. I'm like, I'm at 0, and he's like, well, guess you got to sell some stuff on Monday,
Yeah.
I mean, that tough love though, it's important,
Yeah.
And maybe if he would have tossed me $40, that would have been nice. Shane, you scumbag. But
probably lit a fire under you.
It did, dude. Yeah. I definitely sold a cookbook or 2, that Monday. But then you realize like having nothing isn't that bad because you still have you,
Exactly.
It's like I'm not in prison. I'm not going to court. I can make money somewhere else. At the end of the day, if something really bad happened, I could just find another job, And the thought of taking a risk seems so like big and important. And it's like, this next job that I take, I've got to make sure that it's my life for 30 years. It's like, that's great and honorable. But just pick the best thing and make it the right thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my 50 cents.
Yeah,
But
if you got nothing, it's a lot easier to gamble on yourself.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody with $0 might make better decisions than somebody with just enough to be comfortable.
Oh,
You know,
definitely.
it's like somebody that's like, yeah, my boss kind of sucks, and yeah, my job's not the best, but pays the bills,
Yeah.
gives me a little money to spend on the weekends, and pays for my car bill and blah blah blah. But it's not. There might not be like that vision or trajectory. And
Yeah,
I
they'll-
think most people are more. At least I am. Most people are more motivated by negative situations.
Oh, definitely. I would say that. I mean, pretty much everyone I know who made like a pretty drastic change in their life, like they made it when they were at probably their rock bottom or
Yep.
whatever that was to them. So
Mhm.
that's interesting. I never really thought of it like that, but I mean, makes sense, you know?
Because like the idea of having an awesome life, an awesome car, awesome house, awesome wife, and kids
Mhm.
is awesome.
Yeah.
But we're survivor creatures.
Yeah.
Like our first order of business is I need to survive today.
Yeah.
So if you can like trick yourself to make that goal almost the same as if you're just trying to survive.
Mhm.
Because like if I told you, hey dude, you've got to make $100 today somehow, not
Mhm.
on the phone, it could be on the doors, whatever. But if you don't have $100 by 12 p.m. by noon, I'm gonna kill your entire family.
It's just turned into an Andy Elliott.
Take your shirt off.
Take your shirt off or I'm going to kill your family.
You're gonna find a way to take that shirt off.
Yeah, you are.
You'll find a way to make the $100.
Yeah.
If I told you you've got to make me $1 trillion today, or I'm gonna murder your dog, you're gonna probably let your dog be murdered because $1 trillion is a lot.
That's
of
a
money.
lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
So there's a threshold to all these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting psychology of life and sales. But once you hit that next tier and you're there, then it's like, all right, what's next after that? Because you can always go below that, and you can pull yourself out of it because you've learned how to now, which I think. I mean, that's just so nice. Such a great confidence anchor to have in yourself to go through the low.
Oh yeah.
Because it's coming at some point.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah. Some people probably don't even know it.
Mm-hmm. Some point you're gonna hit something. You'll probably go through lower lows than that. You will go through lower lows than that.
God,
You're gonna go through a really low low at the end of this pod.
Things are gonna get really bad.
What I'm gonna speak into you is your life is about to get really effed up. I'm like your pastor.
Yeah.
What is God telling me about Jackson right now? I'm getting a message that you're gonna be addicted to drugs in 2 years. You're gonna do anything for that hit, for that bump in about 6 days here.
6 days? Oh my God.
I'm gonna put you in the worst situations you've ever been in.
6, I think that's like Christmas.
Christmas Day, you're gonna be a bum on the street in Nashville. Doing some nasty things. But yeah, that's crazy. So what was the highest high so far?
Probably so right after I got myself like out of that low of low, I had a 4-week span where I had my best week, then I beat that week.
Oh, I remember that.
And then I beat that week, and then I beat that week. I actually think I beat it the next week too. I had like my 4 or 5 best weeks in a row. And at the end of that, I just like popped into Austin's room or something, like at the end of the day. And he was just like, he's like, dude, like these past like few weeks, like you've just been like a completely like different person. Like you used to walk around like a zombie. He's like, now you got like good energy. You're smiling in the office. I think just like having like that talk with him was probably my high, just because it was like, I guess in my mind it was like, okay, like I figured out like how to do this, and I'm only going to get better from here. So just having that quick conversation, just like put it into perspective, like, okay, like I'm going to be doing this for probably a really, really long time. And that realization, definitely.
That certainty is amazing. That feeling of certainty is great. Yeah, that's really cool. That's the only things I mean, that's something that you really only really get in an office
Yeah.
environment surrounded by other people.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
that's like one of the things, man. It's like not only the training and the sales technique and blah, 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 and being able to hear other people's sales talks, but just like the camaraderie,
Oh yeah.
playing ping pong, going to lunch together, and just like shooting the shit. It's like
It's the best. I mean, that's
it's
what.
great. It's like that's
Yeah,
what drives people to want to stay somewhere on
for
top of
sure.
like making great money and having good people
Yeah.
around you and growing something is exciting. But dude, that like the idea that you could have the same experience being just at home by yourself, only you,
Yeah.
is just it's fairy dust.
Oh, you cannot replicate what goes on in an office, and especially an office of people who all think the same way in pretty much every
Mm-hmm.
single aspect. I mean, yeah, you can't beat it. I
Recipe
couldn't
for
imagine doing this
success.
job in remote. I literally cannot imagine doing it remote. I can't believe people do it remote.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I could imagine you doing it. Well, I can
Maybe
imagine
down the line.
some people doing it, and then some people, yeah, down the line once you figured it out, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. You're a mom now, and you've got kids and stuff like that. But it's definitely a lot harder to start off remote. So, props to people that do,
Yeah, props. I mean,
because that's a bunch of savages out there.
yeah.
We're gonna do one more segment by Edley's, sponsored by Edley's. The questions for this segment are: would you rather?
Great.
Okay,
Love this.
you ready for this?
Love it.
Okay, would you rather? I just thought of this one. Would you rather have every single policy cancel or never sell another policy again?
I think I'd have. Oh gosh.
Every policy cancels, but you still get to keep selling policies, or you just never sell a policy, and you're pounding the phones 400
God.
dials a day for the rest of your life.
So,
Booked calendar, super interested. You say,
well, I
Mrs.
mean,
Jones, and what's your social? And she goes, social every time. I'm not
Gosh.
giving you that.
if every policy canceled, it would take so long to like get those charged back. I think I'd have every policy canceled, and then I would quit, and then I'd have Logan
Pay for everything.
pay for my chargebacks,
Uh-huh.
and then once they're paid for after 6 months, I think I have to wait 6 months after I quit, but I'd come back after 6 months.
Genius.
Bang.
And plot twist, Logan called all your customers and made them cancel.
That would be a betrayal.
Or he would do something like that. Knowing him.
Knowing Logan.
Knowing Logan.
Knowing Log Dog.
Knowing the log dog. Well, what kind of advice would you give to a 20-something-year-old salesperson out there in the world right now, homeless, roaming the streets of Elkhorn, Nebraska,
Mean streets.
the
of
mean
Elkhorn.
streets of Elkhorn right now, trying to get into doors, trying to call people, but his flip phone doesn't work?
Gosh.
What are you doing? What are you saying to him?
I
He
would
reaches
say,
up and he grabs you and he says, Jackson. And he's only 21, but he's been out there all day.
he's only 21. I'd probably say just buy scratch offs. One of them's gonna hit.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm just kidding.
If you go to the casino, one more question. You go to the casino, what are you putting it all on?
What am I putting it on? Like red or black?
Red or black?
I think I'd go black.
Red.
So I just lost everything.
Uh-huh.
Just like that.
Okay. What advice would you give somebody?
I would just say especially when you're in your early 20s, take as many risks as possible. It's a pretty good chance that the first job you're going to work out of college is not going to be the one that's not going to be your last job. Take as many risks as possible. If you don't like your job, go find a new one right now. It's the best time to make these mistakes, and it's the best time to meet the people who are going to shape you into what your adult life's going to be. Build as many good habits as you can now in your 20s. Pretty much everything you start now is what you're going to carry forward. Think about your future family when you're making these decisions. It's pretty much all I got. I mean, just think about the future and just take as many risks now as you can.
Solid. Very solid. And what's one thing they should never do?
One thing they should never do.
Not just in sales, but just anywhere.
Just in general. Gosh.
I'll start. Never tip. Hold on. Let me phrase myself.
Never tip
Never
when you're
tip.
standing.
Never tip when you're standing. And also, if you want to get good at saying no, when they put that iPad in front of you, always click custom and make your own.
That's good advice.
I ain't talking no. I ain't giving no 20, 25, 30% for you to pour a coffee into a drink. You know what I mean?
Facts.
They're robbing you right when your eyes are open. Stop scrolling. Starbucks is taking over the world and they stink. But anyway, what's one thing you'd say never do this in sales?
I would say just never give up on yourself or never give up on your faith. That's what I would say. I think if you do those two things, or if you never give up on those, it's always going to end up working out. As soon as you give up on those things, I think you're going to get lost.
Yep. Bang, bang.
Bang,
Couldn't think of a better way to end it. You've just witnessed the 3rd episode of the 20-something Sales Podcast with your host, Roy Clancy, and our 3rd guest, Jackson Barish.
Thank you for having me,
No
Ronnie.
problem. That's the real pronunciation, right?
Yep.
Jackson Barish.
You'd crush
What
that.
is your what is the origin of your last name?
German, Polish, and Swedish.
Okay.
I don't know which of the 3, but that's what I've been
Something's
told.
going on in
Something's
there.
been going on.
That's pretty cool. What does birch mean? Birch wood.
Yep.
Birch trees.
Mhm.
Actually, I'm going to look that up. What does
I don't know
birch
what it
mean?
means, actually. I've seen our family crest. Our family crest looks kind of scary.
What is it? Like
Just like a big, like,
headless monkey?
red eagle.
It is from an Alemannic pet form of the personal name Berthold. German.
Bang.
Swabian. Birch history,
Swabian.
coat of arms. Oh, you
Coat
could
of-
buy it for... Oh, interesting. Bertsch.
Yep.
Germany.
I've never met another Birch besides
Yeah,
family
I guess
members.
your family was right hands.
You know, there's another Jackson Birch
where?
who plays for the Yankees. That's my favorite team.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. What's his social?
I don't know. He's
Okay.
living my
I'm gonna look
living my
that up.
dream life right now.
Cool. Jackson Birch. Oh yeah, wow. Yankees. Your picture is the first one to pop up on LinkedIn though.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
Nobody really knows Jackson Birch too well.
No,
I guess he doesn't really start.
I
or
don't think
anything. Oh, he plays
actually
probably
plays for the Yankees. I think he
right-handed
plays-
pitcher though.
Yep, that's what
That's
I was.
what you were, right?
Yep.
Cool. How many years did you play for the Yankees?
Just a few, couple.
Sweet. Well, stay creepy, Nashville. Get back to it, and remember, always remember.
All right.